Okay, I didn't think of that. Now you've got Sid's house, Doreen might think that's a good place to hide.
Oh, God. I hope they haven't gone there. The police are going to look there for sure.
Nah, she'd have more sense than that. If she's got any sense at all, and sometimes I wonder.
Oh, probably things are going to be harder than ever for us now. Tough as anything since the escape. God, Fletch was practically foaming at the mouth.
Just because you have submitted your resignation does not mean you can relax your vigilance over the women.
What are you talking about, Mrs. Davidson?
I am talking about negligence, Mr. Fletcher. That Doreen Burns was able to just walk away from that house is unforgivable.
I was trying to deal with the woman next door and the police at the same time. You've got no right to accuse me of negligence. I have certain standards and I uphold them.
A prisoner has escaped. Because of that, the entire attendance centre project will come to an unnecessary end. I'm sure you realise just how much that project meant to me.
It was probably going to be closed down anyway.
Why do you say that?
Well, that old busybody next door was determined to stir up trouble. Once she found out the women were prisoners, she rang the police.
Well, how did she find that out? I would have thought you had enough discretion to conceal the fact.
I did. But Colleen Powell came waltzing down to the attendance centre in full uniform. Not only that, but when Mrs. Reed spoke to her, she told her who she was and where she was from.
Oh, did she?
Yes, she did, and the rest you know.
I want to speak to her.
Well, I've already told her
Tell Mrs. Powell I want to see her right now.
How is he?
He's all right now. He's asleep. I think he's worn out from all that wheezing.
Will he be all right?
Oh, I don't know. Normally he has to go to a doctor when he gets this bad.
Well, shouldn't you send him home?
Oh, I couldn't, not the way he is.
Pete! What if he gets worse? What if we do have to take him to a doctor?
Well, we just have to take him to one.
We can't. The cops will have descriptions of us all over the place by now. We'll be recognised. We won't have a hope.
It's all right, mate. Come on. It's getting really bad, Dawn.
But I don't quite understand why the police were there.
The nosy Parker next door called them.
They didn't find anything.
No, she called them because she found out they were prisoners.
Oh, I see. Then why does Mrs. Davidson want to see me so
Oh,
urgently?
don't ask me, but be warned. She's on the warpath.
Well, I suppose she would be with a prisoner escaping.
Well, I think it's more the fact that her pet project's been cancelled.
Well, the attendance centre was very important, Jim.
Yeah, look, you don't have to tell me. I was all for it, if you remember. I even went and looked at the damn place in my own time. Oh, anyway, it's all finished now. Now that dragon next door was determined to nip it in the bud, one way or the other. Once she'd gotten into the ear of the neighbours, they would have gotten up petitions and the whole place would have been closed down anyway.
Have you any idea why Doreen took off like that?
No. No, she just must have seen her opportunity and taken advantage of it.
Seems an odd time to choose, just as the police had arrived.
Yeah, but I know she wasn't missing before that. I saw her in the kitchen myself.
Oh. Oh, well, I must go and see what Mrs. Davidson wants me for.
Yeah, listen, she's with Colleen Powell at the moment. I'd steer clear if I were you.
Oh, well, then if she's busy, I'll go and have a talk with Lizzie whilst I'm waiting.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't like to be in Colleen's shoes right now.
You must have realised that your uniform could only cause trouble. I simply cannot understand what prompted you to do it.
No, I didn't realise you're trying to keep it such a secret. Anyhow, I don't see what difference it makes. The locals would have found out sooner or later.
Well, of course they would have found out eventually, but perhaps not until the work had been finished and the project was underway. We may have had time to prove that what we were doing was not a danger to the community, and time for the people to adjust to the idea and accept it. Your actions have just cut the ground from under us.
I can hardly be blamed for Doreen Burns' escape.
I am not talking about Doreen Burns' escape.
But surely that's the issue.
That is beside the point. What I am concerned about is that one of my officers could have been so careless in such a delicate situation. If you are hoping to keep the rank of Chief Prison Officer, then you will have to show a little more thought and discretion.
Well, obviously I just didn't think things through. I can assure you it won't happen again.
I should hope not. Near enough is not good enough. Not for my chief officer. That position demands precise decision-making.
I can feel it. What's up with the women? What have I done to upset them? Oh, now, come on, Lizzie. I can usually depend on you to be straight with me. You know I've got the best interest of the women at heart.
Yeah,
That's what I always thought.
Well, I can't sort any of this out unless you tell me what it's about.
You won't like it. It might hurt your feelings.
Well, I'll take my chances on that.
Well, we think it was you who dobbed young Peter in.
Peter? You mean the boy at the house?
Yeah, the cops arrived just after you left.
But I told him I wouldn't contact them until I talked to him again.
Yeah, I know that's what you said. But the cops did arrive. That's why Peter had to dash off so quickly. We reckon that's why Dor went with him.
I see. So now I'm being blamed for dobbing in Peter and for Doreen escaping as well, am I?
Well, that's what some of the women seem to think. Of course, I stuck up for you. You didn't dob young Peter in, did you, Mrs. M?
I'm disappointed you feel you even had to ask me that, Lizzie. But I can understand them thinking that. Ah, so now I suddenly feel responsible for Doreen.
Oh, no, that wasn't your fault, Mrs. M.
I know it wasn't, but I'm still involved. I don't know what'll happen to me if Mrs. Davidson finds out.
Oh, we wouldn't tell her. None of us. Well, that'd be just like lagging.
Thanks, Lizzie. Just have to work around that one for myself. You haven't any ideas where Doreen and Peter might be?
They wouldn't have gone to Sid's house, would they?
Police would look there for sure, I'd say.
Oh, God. Peter did say something to me
About
once.
where he might hide out?
Yeah, but I can't put my finger on it.
Or is it that you just don't want to tell me?
No, Mrs. M. I just can't think.
Yes, Ted, I know that. Well, of course it's bad publicity, but... The minister. Yes, I realize that. Yes, I know, Ted. Yes, I know that I went out on a limb, but... Well, of course I realize it's my responsibility. I'm not trying to deny that. Yes, Ted, I will get you a report as soon as possible. Yes, very well. Goodbye. Well, the point of that discussion is that the whole situation is entirely my fault. That's the trouble with this position. It's where the buck finally stops.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to let you know that Meg Morris is in the building.
Well, I want to see her straight away. Why didn't she come here?
Well, I told her that you were with Colleen, so she went to speak to some of the other prisoners.
Well, surely she could have waited until I was free.
Look, Mrs. Davidson, I know this is none of my business, but is it about Doreen wanting to see Mrs. Morris?
Doreen asked to see Mrs. Morris.
Yes, that's right, on the phone yesterday. Meg called into the attendance centre this morning.
If Mrs. Morris saw her so recently, then she may know something that can help us.
Well, she hasn't said anything.
Well, I'd better find out. Ask her to come here as soon as possible, please.
Right.
Oh, how'd you get on with Morris?
All right. I'm as good as sure that she didn't dob young Peter in.
Why?
Because she said she didn't.
Well, you don't expect her to admit it, do you? She knows we'd never trust her again.
Oh, she seemed real worried about young Dor's escape.
Was it worry or guilt?
Oh, I don't know, Bea. Suppose it does seem funny that the cops arrived just after she said that she'd have to call him. But she's always been straight with us, so why would she start doing something else?
Don't go trusting her too far. Not until we're sure.
She was asking me if I knew where I thought that Peter and Dor might have gone.
Yeah? And do you?
That's what's driving me crackers. I can't remember. I know that Peter said something about somewhere, but I just can't remember. It's on the tip of me tongue. But I can't remember. I've just been sitting here and thinking.
Well, that's too much strain for you for one day, Lizzie. Anyway, even if you could remember, I'm not sure it's a good idea to tell Mrs. Morris. She'd dob him in then for sure. We can't have an escapee on the loose.
Yeah. It's rotten when you can't trust people, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Look at Judy. We've been mates for ages. This little bitch comes along and cons her, and, well, you've seen what happens.
Yeah, but she did have a bit of a point there, Bea.
What?
Well, I know you were doing it for our good, but it did look as though you was helping the screws.
I wouldn't help those bludgers, and you should know me better than that.
Oh, I know that, Bea.
Then so should Judy.
Yeah, well, I hope her mates don't get up to anything else.
Oh, before another stupid stunt, someone could end up dead.